extremely interesting is what's the reaction going to be from the Michigan State players. Most of those players have been recruited by Mel Tucker himself. If you go to Michigan State, you have a relationship with your head coach. If you don't, you're in the portal or you get out of it one way or the other. So all of this is going to come. I mean, I've been around here a long time. I've seen a lot of football coaches. A lot of coaches have issues that cost them their jobs. But the late Denny Stoltz once told me, if this stuff happens on your watch, whether you think it's fair or unfair, and I don't know what he thinks, my guess is he's not happy about it, right? He says if it's on your watch, you're going to be the one that goes. Now, if that's the way this eventually plays up, we'll have to see. So,
well, right now, they look like they're about to hit the podium there at.
This is Matt Lurs.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on short notice today. This time, I'd like to bring up Michigan State University Vice President and Director of Athletics, Alan Haller.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon on such short notice. I'm here to provide an update on an active and ongoing investigation. Before I share that update, it's important to note that I'm limited in the information I can share and the questions I can answer because this is an investigation is still ongoing. Upon receiving the reports from the MSU's Office of Civil Rights immediately commenced a review of subsequent investigation per university protocol using an outside third-party investigator. I was aware of the report in late December. The external investigator concluded their review and submitted their investigative report on July 25th with the recommendation for a formal hearing, which will occur the week of October. The university's objective has been and remains focused on conducting a fair, thorough, and unbiased investigation and allowing the processes to play out. This includes protecting confidentiality of the claimant and putting in place interim measures. The university's formal conclusion of the investigation will occur and final decision processes are complete. I want to emphasize again, this investigation interim measures are something that are constantly evaluated throughout the process based on developments that may have a potential impact on the ongoing investigation. As there have been new developments before the hearing and with the best interests of everyone, including student athletes and the university community in mind, I have suspended Mel Tucker without pay. While the investigation continues, I made this decision with the support of university leadership. I'd now like to welcome Interim President Teresa Woodruff to the podium for a few brief comments.
Thank you, Alan. I want to reinforce that these matters are unique and complex, and our investigations are designed to be comprehensive and fair. Our guiding principle and confidentiality for all involved in order to protect the integrity of the investigation. I want to put a fine point on what A.D. Haller shared just a moment ago. In the MSU of today, when any report comes into the university, it is appropriately and rigorously reviewed. In the MSU of today, our investigative processes are fair and thorough. In the MSU of today, in all cases, review interim measures to ensure appropriate actions are taken. So this morning's news might sound like the MSU of old. It was not. It is not because an independent, unbiased investigation is and continues to be conducted. That investigative process is not complete and had not been referred to A.D. Haller or the university. That process will not be complete until there is a hearing and a final decision. It is not the MSU confidence of the claimant and the respondent while respecting and valuing the claimant's and respondent's right to share their story. It is not because of the further action we take today. The action A.D. Haller took comes with the full weight of my support. As he shared, these new developments before the formal hearing can impact the case and the community. This step to place Mel Tucker on an unpaid leave is equally necessary in these circumstances. These actions are not taken lightly, and I know A.D. Haller is making them in support of the interests of the individuals impacted. Before I conclude, I want to reinforce that this indeed is an ongoing investigation, and I appreciate the commitment of the leadership and staff within the Office for Civil Rights for their important, thorough, and unbiased work today. I also want to thank the Board of Trustees, Faculty Senate Chair, and student leaders for their engagement with me today. It is not lost on me the significance of this moment or its impact on those involved in the case, our university community, and the extended Spartan family. The MSU of today is creating a culture that is welcoming, supportive, and caring. The bravery and work of our institution and its people, not the action of any single individual. If you have heard or experienced or know of behavior that does not seem appropriate, please know that you have the support and resources here at MSU, including our Center for Survivors, which is a confidential resource, or our Office for Civil Rights. Additionally, for those among our community for whom this information is difficult, MSU is also available to help. To members of the media, I hope you note these important and critical resources for our community in your stories. Now I'd like to welcome A.D. Haller back to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Today I met with our student athletes, leadership of the program. Beginning immediately, Harlan Barnett will serve as acting head coach, while Mark D'Antonio will become an associate head coach. A former Spartan student athlete with 21 years of coaching experience, including 15 on the Spartan sideline, Coach Barnett has an incredible connection to our university and takes incredible pride in being a Spartan. He has established relationships with student athletes and is focused on the well-being first and foremost. Coach D'Antonio, football coach, and will be a tremendous resource for Harlan. Both men have a deep love and care for Michigan State football, Spartan athletics, the university, and the East Lansing community. Coach Barnett will be available later this week for questions.
At this time, we've got time for 2 or 3 questions. We do have a mic. I know we won't be able to get to everybody, but Ben's got the mic here. Start in front with Chris.
With the decision to promote Harlan and bring back Mark D'Antonio, from a football standpoint, how did that come about, and what was Mark's response when you contacted him, and how that worked?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. You know, Chris, I think all the time, and I'm always processing information, processing situations. I can't tell you that I thought of, or even a couple of days ago. I'm always thinking. So these are contingency things that I think about with all of our programs in a lot of different situations. So it's been an ongoing process for me, Chris. I called Coach D'Antonio this morning, and his response was, "Alan, whatever you need, I'm here to help." So he was excited to be back, and Coach D will probably be back at some point tomorrow. If not tomorrow, definitely on Tuesday. We're still trying to figure out his role, either on the sidelines and up in the the booth, and he'll offer his knowledge of his coaching career. So I think he'll be a tremendous asset for our student athletes and our staff, and the student athletes were fired up when I mentioned that to them. Thanks, Chris.
Hey, Alan, I was wondering, with the timeline you laid out for the process and the investigation, I was wondering what changed to make you take action now, given what you knew before?
Yeah, Matt, we're always evaluating. Those interim measures have been updated. Initially, there were no contact with the complainant, and then also increased oversight from me of the program, but then also the coach. So it's an ongoing process, and we update those interim measures as we receive information.
Last question here from Graham.
Alan, was there any consideration once the investigation was complete in July and you sort of had the information you do now of doing what you're doing, or it sort of interrupted what's going on with the student athletes and everything?
Yeah, for me, Graham, it was, working and waiting on the university as it relates to their investigative process and making sure that they were allowed to complete their investigation. And so although the investigation was complete on the 25th, there's still ongoing processes that still need to be played out.
So thank you. That's all the time we have for today. Appreciate you guys for joining us on short notice. Thank you.
All right, that was Michigan State University Athletic Director Alan Haller and Interim President Teresa Woodruff. Mel Tucker was suspended without pay amid the Title IX investigation, and you heard a lot there from Alan Haller, including the report that was finished on July 25th, the hearing that we already knew about from that USA Today report coming on October 5th and 6th. That press conference, obviously, there was a lot to unpack there.
Well, the without pay. If he's going to get pay in terms of a severance or whatever, that can always be done afterward. Obviously, there was no reference made to how long the suspension lasts, but let's be realistic. It's going to be through Washington, and Maryland is home, and it's homecoming at Michigan State with a new incoming Athletic Hall of Fame class the following week before Michigan State goes on the road there before the bye week on October 5th and 6th. And what comes from the October 5th and 6th hearing and moving forward remains to be seen. Tucker is 51 years old. He is still owed approximately $77 million plus on the contract that he agreed to 2 years ago. Look, it's naive, I think, to believe, unless something falls out of the sky, that he is going to return as Michigan State's football coach. But in these contract situations, and if you've read his contract carefully, due process is a huge factor here, as it is at Northwestern, trying to figure out whether $40 million is going to go to Pat Fitzgerald or none whatsoever. Reading Tucker's contract, there are a lot of safeguards in that for him when that money was approved, that if he violates his contract in any way, he can therefore be severed without pay. I think that they want to be absolutely legally carefully sure, as the president herself made absolutely clear, that legally we are to make sure that this is a fair process. I don't think they want to react to a newspaper story, however credible that story seems to be overnight. If it wasn't credible, we wouldn't be sitting here today with this news conference. In the case of D'Antonio, my sense is where Mark is going to be helpful and where he's going to be called upon is not to start drawing up plays. My sense is he's going to be called to calm down those players, because when Alan, with all due respect, says that they were enthusiastic about this, if you've got one player on that team that is enthusiastic about losing to begin with right there, my sense is those players must be very divided today over losing him for whatever. The other thing, Seth, is where is this going to lead? Because often in stories like this, when one person comes forward with a complaint like this, are others going to follow down the road? In this case, I don't know, but I think that's going to be something to watch moving forward. Will others come forward when this thing, and this is not going to end anytime soon?
Yeah, Alan Haller faced He said, the report was done on July 25th. Was there any thought process behind doing this before the season until, you get to this point where it's now made public, and then you decide to suspend him without pay? So the question was, did you think about doing this before the season when the report was finalized? And Haller said, while the report was finalized, there were still processes that they had to go through. So that was his response to that. Of course, the